So this is my third and final video getting ready for our second test, our Unit 2 test. This one comes from the 2014 AP Microeconomics test. So again, you can find those on the AP website if you want to print off a copy. But yeah, let's just dive in. Number 3, this was the third problem. So assume that gasoline is sold in a competitive market in which demand is relatively inelastic and supply is relatively elastic. Draw a correctly labeled graph of the gasoline market. On your graph, show the equilibrium price and quantity of gasoline labeled P and P sub E and Q sub E. Alright, so any old supply and demand graph. Always price on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis. It did say that demand is relatively inelastic, which I guess makes sense for gasoline. People pretty much buy it anyways, so it's going to be not a perfectly vertical line, but a fairly vertical. And I know slope doesn't equal elasticity, but they're really closely related. So there we go. There's our relatively inelastic demand, and supply was relatively elastic, so I'm going to make it a little more of a horizontal looking line there and label that supply. And then I need to label my P sub E and Q sub E. I used lowercase on one and uppercase on the other. Let's make them both uppercase. There we go. Beautiful. Alright, there's P sub E. So that was part 1. Part 2. Suppose the government imposes a $2 per unit tax on the producers of gasoline. That's probably key there. On your graph from part A, show each of the following after the tax is imposed. The price paid by the buyers, the after-tax price received by the sellers, and the quantity. Alright, so parts 1, 2, and 3 are all going to be on this graph. So first we got to draw the effect of the tax, and of course a tax on the producers is going to shift that supply curve. It's going to shift it up by the amount of the tax, which is a decrease in supply. There, supply plus tax, which really is a reduction in supply. It really is a shift to the left. You could also think of it as a shift up because it's up by the amount of the tax. But if you think about it, that means that at every given price, the quantity supplied is less than it used to be. So it is a decrease in supply, even though it is that shift upward. So then we got to label the price paid by the buyers. Well, the buyers are now going to pay the new equilibrium price, P sub B. The quantity that's going to be sold, I'm actually just going to jump to part 3 there, Q sub T, and the price the sellers are actually going to receive is this amount minus the amount of the tax, so it's really the spot on that line down there. P sub S, and actually there's not a lot of space there. I think what I'm going to do, whoops, that was supposed to be my eraser, erase those two, and P sub E and P sub S there. A little more clear to read. Alright, using the labeling on my graph, explain how to calculate the total tax revenue collected by the government. I am going to shade that area, then I'm going to delete it, but the difference between the price the buyers pay and the price the sellers receive, that's the amount of the tax, right? That's how much we shifted up this thing up by. and this is the quantity that's being sold. So the area of this rectangle right there is the amount that the government is actually receiving in tax. So now I'm going to erase those things because it doesn't actually say to highlight it and draw it on there or anything. But I'm going to, oh, sorry, that was part B1, this is part C. Using the label on my graph, I'm going to explain how to calculate it. Well, it'd be the P sub B minus the P sub S, that's the amount of the tax, times the quantity that the government said, that the government is actually selling. So, sorry, that is being sold in the market. So that's how many the government is collecting on. So P sub B minus P sub S, that's the amount of the tax, times the quantity that are being bought, equals the government, I'm running out of space, I'll just write it here, revenue. There we go. Now the question is, will the tax burden fall entirely? I can actually probably do this all on this little sheet here. Will the tax burden fall entirely on buyers, entirely on sellers, more on buyers and less on sellers, more on sellers and less on buyers, or equally on buyers and sellers? Whew. In this case, we had relatively inelastic demand, meaning people are pretty much going to buy it at any price, and we had relatively elastic supply, which means sellers are going to be able to change their quantities at will, and really means they can pass on almost all the tax to the buyers. So buyers will bear the majority of the tax burden. It's not going to be entirely on the buyers because they don't have perfectly inelastic demand, but they do have relatively inelastic. And if you wanted to see it graphically, you know, if this was our tax revenue here, then the portion that the sellers are paying is that top half, and the portion that the buyers are paying, sorry, I said that backwards. It's what happens when you write and talk at the same time. The top half there is the portion that the buyers are paying, that the consumers are paying of the tax. And this small section on the bottom is how much the sellers are paying of the tax. The vast majority of it is falling on the buyers. So that's it. A relatively simple problem. You'll probably see something like that on your test, and there's a decent chance you'll see something along these lines on an AP test at some point. So, happy studying. I hope you enjoyed the video.